living too much? Is it below, is it above? Is my dream enough? There's a vision that I've created in my heart. Will I see it come to life, or will it fall apart? Can the universe do better than my dream? She said let it go and see. So I surrender, I surrender, I surrender. I surrender, I surrender, I surrender. I surrender, I surrender, I surrender. I surrender, I surrender. Let's celebrate, yeah, yeah. À comment je l'ai mourir, je vais mourir, yeah, yeah. Et mon vous, mon eau, je l'ai calé, mon yeah, yeah. I'm scendere for me, for those you love. Io sono Maria, I'm poveri con voi, yeah, yeah. I får muoverando, gira la safe, yeah, nah. Acco fumo, rumo, giù, per la moda, yeah, ta. Han på farsen, con Ann-Maree. Håller mot alla sekunder, var Ann-Maree. Who thought divine control would be in letting go, compared to searching how and when to hold? And how come this heart feels harder from me giving so? Probably because they taught me give when running low. I'm tired of titles and tired of labels, I'm tired of status. Think about those few things, if only by sadness. So I think it's a season of change, by upping my game and filling my chalice. I love myself. Wonderful, watch it soften the callous. There's a vision that I've created in my heart. Will I see it come to life, or will it fall apart? Can the universe do better than my dream? She said let it go and see. So I surrender. She said let it go and see. So I surrender. She said let it go and see. I surrender, I surrender, I surrender. I surrender, I surrender. Yeah, yeah, à comment je l'ai mourir, je vais mourir, yeah, yeah. Et mon vous, mon eau, je l'ai calé, mon yeah, yeah. I'm scendere for me, for those you love. Io sono Maria, I'm poveri con voi, yeah, yeah. I får muoverando, gira la safe, yeah, nah. Acco fumo, rumo, giù, per la moda, yeah, ta. Han på farsen, con Ann-Maree. Håller mot alla sekunder, var Ann-Maree. Var Ann-Maree.
Hello and welcome. It is great to have you here if you're here live. It's great to have you here if you're watching the recording. I was just reflecting, we have a dominance of emotional authorities within the Phoenix Collective space right now, which is beautiful. But I feel called to also remind you that particularly as emotional authorities, there is no truth in the now. So maybe sometimes you set the intention that you're going to be live on the call. Your wave will determine that. So if you are getting that instinct that I'm showing up because I have made a commitment, because I feel I have to, we're kind of running that program and that conditioning, you have absolute permission in this space to not do that, please. as emotional authorities, this is really how we run our lives, and most of us need permission granted to do that. So it's granted, particularly in this space. I remember earlier through my journey, I was getting guided by other projector coaches and other coaches in general within the business space going, oh yeah, you as an emotional authority, like you can't run a business because you can't take client bookings, like because you never know. And it's like that's very, very extreme, and we maybe can find an intermediate in that space. And that's where you just need to be honest with yourself. And some days there is that need that you just do need to show up. But as often as you can, you really want to honor that emotional authority and be someone that embraces that and cancels appointments and cancels lunch dates with your girlfriends, because it's worse if you show up, because your emotional wave is ruling you. So you need to kind of surrender as that beautiful opening track just reminds us. And also a reminder, when you arrive in this room, that's why I play some music. I get you into a space where you are just ready to land here. You know, just jumping in the chair and taking your day or wherever you've just been with you is not going to be as conducive as you being able to land here and have some time to connect with your body, to put the mind outside, to release anything that is coming into the Zoom room with you, so that you can really be fully present as a projector. You can be focused during this time, and you can also feel at ease in your receptivity of allowing to come through what is to come through for you at this moment in your journey at this time. So always use that time. I know that it's harder for you to do that before the call, so I start the call intentionally like that. So there will always be that spaciousness to arrive, to land in the room, to sit and go, no, I need a cup of tea, I need my journal, whatever it is that you kind of feel called to grab. With all that said, a bit of intro today, but it's also a beautiful moment. I was just reflecting, this membership space was launched here in Catania, getting emotional authority. And so much has moved in this city. It has meant so much at this time. I was guided emotionally to be here. And the only message I really got with clarity, and it was completely illogical, was you need to be in Catania to launch this membership. And it's been incredible. And so we have had our first full month and a little bit more in this space. And I'm just deeply grateful, because it has all been perfect as it has rolled out. And in saying it's all been perfect, my time is ending here, and that's perfect too. So there was something that I needed to be here for. The space has been birthed in such a beautiful way. I'm so grateful with the humans here, the projectors here, the level of input. It's just so enriching also for me as a facilitator to see how this space is being used and engaged with, and what it's bringing up for you, and just this high level of engagement and reflection and introspection and sharing that you are bringing into this space. So I'm so grateful. And Etna, the volcano, has been erupting during my time here. Like, it's just been really, really powerful creatively. And I'm so grateful. And this is the magic for projectors, for emotional authorities in particular, but for all projectors. Life will position you. And the more that you surrender into your design, into your mechanics, into the flow, and out of the construct and the logic, you will be put where you need to be. And the people, the experiences, the atmosphere that is necessary for whatever part is happening at that point in your journey will arrive. So it's just been a beautiful evidence of all of that, and you can all bear witness to that as well, because you've been with me as we have birthed this together as founding members. So thank you. If you are watching this at a future time and you're not a founding member, wow, we must have done something so right, because we're still here. So with all that said, let's jump into today's workshop. Masterclass is a stretch. Workshop, this is an experience, but it's a bit of a trip. So let's just dive in. Enough with the introduction. I'm going to share my screen. We're going into neutrinos today. What is a neutrino? Let's share my screen. Okay. All right. Okay, Canva, there you are. I'm on the last slide. That's always a good place to start. Okay. All right, let's get started. Neutrino stream. All right, let's just go. What we will cover in this experience, we're going to cover a little bit of physics. We're going to go science, so just bear with me. A little bit of cosmology. This is a topic that you just want to keep your mind open, but I'm bringing in some science, so you don't have to keep it too open. We've got some firm foundation in science. If you are that person that needs that, I've definitely come from that background, and I've been so grateful for the amount of scientific backing within the human design system when you dig in, and it makes me trust the things that we don't have evidence for yet in a deeper way as well. And this masterclass, class, whatever in particular will really tease that out. We're also going to look at why the personality becomes the definition when we sleep. In case you weren't expecting that particular topic about sleep in this, it's really important. And in my work, as you are hopefully already aware, I have a strong emphasis on the design side, particularly as a foundational aspect when you're beginning your journey, because the design side is it's really your body's imprint, the design that you are in this life to have. And the personality is the one that is more likely to get conditioned and to be married up with the mind. The personality is here just to be a passenger, and it's the personality of the passenger that's watching the life. But what is moving through the life is the vehicle. So, and that movement through life is directed by your vehicle's authority and your strategy. These are not personality constructs. They are form principle. So I neglect the personality a bit, but the personality gets its moment when we are talking about the dream rave, sleep, and the neutrino stream and the program. What this all means for conditioning and for your mind. Okay, now we're a little overdue on this. I need to bring Ra and his voice into this space in case you haven't personally had anything to do with consuming Ra. Ra is source. He is the closest thing we have to source, because Ra received this knowledge from a source, which he terms the voice. That's the only name he's ever given it. I have a whole lot of interesting reflections on how it's more than interesting that Ra received this system over about a 7-day experience, all auditory. And there is so much in human history and in major knowledge downloads that we've had throughout our history that have really been transmitted in the auditory sense. So I think it's really pertinent to recognize that he received all this from a voice, and you can actually watch his full experience on YouTube. They've done a full long, I think it's actually a couple of videos where he really breaks down what he can recall about what went on in those 7 days when he just received and was like impregnated with this knowledge. And the knowledge was really a teaching. And then Ra formulated human design. It wasn't like he was told, this is the human design system and this is how you are going to bring it to the world. Ra did that aspect. So it's always good to keep that in mind as well, which is why, particularly as projectors, we want to receive this knowledge as close to source as possible. I'm already translating this in my perspective for you, but I would rather you receive it from me, who's getting it as close to source as possible, and as a projector who's really designed to guide and be able to see beyond what generators and reflectors and manifestors can really see. So all that said, I wanted to just give you this short 3-minute video. I trust that the sound is going to work. I might actually make sure that I'm still sharing my computer sound, because otherwise that's not going to work. So let me just get back to, share sound. Great. Share sound. Let's do high fidelity. Okay. All right, let's go back. Glad I realized that. Welcome to being a third line. I'm so at ease with being a third line now, I don't even apologize for it. Okay, so the warning within this message is don't cling too tight to the knowledge. It's just a bridge to qualify the map that we've been given. Human design is a map, okay? It's a map that we have never had before. And I deeply trust that we're given what we need when we need it. And there's a reason that we have this body of knowledge and this map at this time. Anyway, without further ado, just receive Ra. Just receive Ra and see how he lands with you as he speaks and shares. Okay. Welcome to close your eyes if you like as well.
I hear it all the time. I really do. This dilemma that people seem to have with just living this knowledge. You know, there is so much concern about, well, I need to know this. I have to know what my this is and my that is. I need to know my profile and my cross. I have to understand how the spleen works. And it goes on and on and on. And it isn't as if that information isn't of importance or isn't of value. It is. But it's not the point about how you live this knowledge. I mean, from the moment that I introduced human design, I introduced it as an experiment. It's an experiment. It's not my experiment, it's your experiment, or potentially your experiment, and it's the only way to live this knowledge. You experiment with your strategy and authority. It doesn't matter at what level that I teach human design. It doesn't matter how deep I go into the knowledge or into the various places that the knowledge leads. It always comes back to the surface. It always comes back to the same thing. Everything about the nature of being able to live this life as yourself with all the possibilities that come to it is rooted in you living your strategy and authority, freeing yourself from your mind, making decisions for you based on conditioning, based on what you're not. To live your life as yourself is not a matter of having more and more and more information. So many people I know, they spend so much time studying as a way of avoiding the truth. This is not about, collecting data. It's about living correctly as yourself. It's the most extraordinary thing. And it's at the very core of this knowledge. This knowledge is about the simple. But it's the simple that's not easy. It's simple, your strategy and authority. Truly, it is a simple thing. And truly, it works. But easy? No, it's not easy. And the only way that it will become something that is easy for you as you enter into this experiment, like learning how to ride a bicycle, that moment by moment and breath by breath, it becomes your natural way of living your life. Don't worry about all the this and that's. The education that you think you need before you have what you need to be you. Don't get caught in that trap. Just follow your strategy and authority. It's your experiment. See where it takes you.
Got a dream in a tear last night. Watched the world fade out of sight. Seen the ghost of time preside.
Okay, Ra Uru Hu. It's a really important reminder, I think, particularly as we go into this topic and particularly for projectors to return to over and over again, because we have a design of wanting to go deep, of wanting all the detail, of wanting to understand, because we are designed to master something. And because of the conventional education system that has really elevated and prioritized intellect over experience, we tend to come at everything with the intellect, with the mind. And it's like, how wise is this body though? We're completely cut off from the wisdom within this body that is actually designed to move us through our life as projectors correctly. The mind, your intellect, your ability to really sift through information and have a depth of understanding is just a skill. It's not who you are. And just be very important about where you are overutilizing that skill and forgetting to just live it. Just live this system rather than needing to understand it all. Because as Ra said, it was his responsibility to prove this system in a way. He had to go through all the layers of depth, and it's all there. But every layer of depth just reinforces the simplicity at the surface. So that it's a beautiful reminder that this is not about acquiring information. You're kind of just running away from the point and from yourself, and we all do it. We all do it. So it's just a gentle reminder. All right, so with that in mind, this is a bit of intellect in this, but it's also a lot of just unplugging from what sounds logical and what we've heard before. It's a nice little marriage between the two. The history of the neutrino. What is a neutrino? Like, I thought this was a made up word that, you know, was like many words within the new age self-development. It's like, is that based on anything? Is it where does that word come from? Is this just a creation that we've sort of devised to sound, I don't know, a certain way? But no, the interesting history of the neutrino is interesting. So this image on the side, it's not a neutrino. It's actually a massive machine that allowed the quantification of neutrinos. And you can see there's two tiny humans down here. So this is not what a neutrino looks like. Maybe it does, but yeah, I don't think so. 1930, let's go through the history of the dates because it's very interesting. 1930, an Austrian by the name of Wolfgang Pauli, or Pauli we would say in Italy. My pronunciation's got really changed since I've lived here. Postulated a new particle called the neutrino, but it wasn't believed it had mass. So at that time, you couldn't see any of this, but based on physics and experiments, he was like, there's something here that's having an effect, and don't really know much more than that. But it wasn't believed to have mass. Ra-Uru-Hu received the knowledge over his 7-day experience from the voice in 1987. And the voice told Ra that the neutrino has mass, and neutrinos are the instrument of the consciousness field, the hardware and the software. Now, at that time, Ra didn't know most of the words that he was being told. He didn't have a background in physics. He wasn't even into astrology at the time, which is mind-blowing. I think he's reported to say he didn't even know his astrological sign. So it's crazy how life just plugs into people that you least expect to give amazing downloads to. So 1987 that happened, and you know, poor Ra sitting back without a scientific background. He's got this information, and the word neutrino is out there if he kind of Googles it, even though you couldn't really Google back then. But neutrinos, you know, they don't have mass. That's what the physics community is saying. And Ra's like, oh, well, this voice told me that it did. What do I do with all that? Beautifully, Ra moved through his journey as he was designed to do and was sharing this system. But in his early talks, he's very famous as saying, don't trust me, don't believe anything I have to say. Because he was really just standing there on those stages as a translator. So much of this information he was giving that he received could not actually be validated at the time. Some of it still can't, but this is the interesting thing. Some of it has been in the interim. So in 2015, the Nobel Prize in Physics was awarded to a Japanese and a Canadian scientist for proving neutrino actually has mass and can change identities, is the term that's been used. It basically can change the behavior of other matter that the neutrino moves through, and the neutrino is also changed. So there's this interaction that's happening within physics. So this blows my mind, and it makes me smile and it makes me excited, because I just love when this stuff goes against, like, the scientific community feels so progressive and yet it can be so behind, and we're so reliant on it. And yeah, think what you will about that. You know, I'm a trained scientist, but it's so nice to go, hey, we don't know everything. And as Ra said, we don't need to know everything. Just live it. Live what we have. All right, the neutrino. Ra also called these the breath of stars. Very romantic. This is kind of getting to the cosmology. So neutrinos are produced by the sun. 70% in fact come from the sun. That's our major dominant source of neutrinos here on Earth. Other stars, it's like stardust. The Earth also produces neutrinos, and even bananas. When I was Googling a few terminologies to make sure I was prepped for this from the scientific base as well as the human design teachings, it's so fun when Google gives you suggestions. And it was like, do bananas produce neutrinos? I'm like, yeah, I'm interested now. This is the problem with us. We can end up in these rabbit holes. But yes, even bananas produce neutrinos from the radioactivity of the potassium within bananas. So there you go. So the neutrino stream is traveling 3 trillion neutrinos per second at almost the speed of light are streaming into us. Of that 3 trillion, about 70% of those are coming from the sun, creating a neutrino ocean that we are bathed in constantly. If we could see neutrinos, we wouldn't be able to see anything else. Imagine that. Like, imagine. As the neutrinos move through the planet, so you can imagine if the sun is producing 70% of our neutrinos before they reach us, what are those neutrinos contacting with? How many points of surface of matter are those neutrinos moving through before they reach me or you? The planets, the atmosphere, the other human over there, it goes through before it meets me. What's it picking up? How is it being changed? What is the resulting imprint it's having on me? How am I changing it as it passes through me and onwards, wherever it's going to go? So we can really get into some wild places even contemplating this. So they are changed, and it's like light moving through a crystal. They will be refracted, reflected. They will behave differently depending on their journey and those interfaces, and they imprint DNA. So a term in human design that's used a lot, the program. Now, some people will go, oh, the program is the matrix, you know, it's this construct, it's the Maya, you know, there's all these terms that are thrown around. Essentially, the program is, yes, it is the conditioning field, and it's encompassed by all the different ingredients that are coming into conditioning us. The neutrino stream is one of the most profound because it's everywhere. You know, other humans are also kind of part of the program because they are receiving the neutrino stream and they are having that effect on themselves. They are having the effect from the neutrinos on them, and then they are then kind of projecting their conditioning onto you. And it's going even further out at a global scale. The global atmosphere is being conditioned by the neutrino stream, the positioning of the planets, and how the neutrinos are then having those interactions before they even reach us. And this is why it is kind of almost been validated that, yeah, the planets have an effect on us. So you can think whatever you want to think about astrology, but there is a basis to this based on the neutrino stream, because they are moving through those planets based on where those planets are positioned. And human design takes it even further, because we go into the I Ching, the rave mandala. That's that circular construct that you see in an advanced chart that most of you should have received from me if you've had a reading with me, and you've got the little body graph in the middle. Those 64 gates, the planets are moving through those gates. This is the movement that's happening, and those gates and the planets have particular qualities. So it's creating this impression that the neutrinos are then transmitting to us. So and I think I've just said everything that I've written down without needing to read those points. This really interesting terminology that we've got is, and they used to talk about this a lot when Ra was still alive within the human design space, they would actually do these neutrino weather forecasts, and it was essentially looking at the transits. The neutrino weather forecast is just looking at the positioning of the planets and the transits. And so the themes that are going to arise from that at a personal level, based on your design, your openness, but also at a global level. Where are we being conditioned at a global societal level? It's happening to us, and it's something that we don't need to and can't do anything about. You can't. It's unavoidable. It's like oxygen, no matter what your mind thinks. So this is another level of surrender within this experiment, within the Maya. There is some things you can control at a gross level in your life once you start to walk the journey with your human design, and you'll become more aware of, well, you know, is that human? Are they conditioning me in a positive way? Is that institution conditioning me in a positive way? Is this leading me closer to alignment with what is correct for me, or is it taking me further away? But when it comes to the neutrino stream, we can't control it. We can't choose to not go and have lunch with that person, or engage with that institution or that body of work, or take a decision over there to move away from a particular country or vibrational frequency. The neutrino stream just is. It's completely unavoidable. So let's look at what's happening 24/7 across the whole day in this neutrino stream, this consciousness field that we really can't escape. And we're going to go into a little bit of a deeper level, and let's just start. So how are we receiving this information? There's a directional flow of neutrinos. So just like a river or the ocean has a directional flow, it's a vector force, it's moving from one point to another. The directional flow of the neutrinos, because they're kind of everywhere, varies according to the piece of matter that they are moving through. So for humans, we're upright, and our neutrino influence actually flows vertically through us. So it's very interesting because it kind of reaches the head center first, which is why it's such a profound conditioning force. And that's just for us though. For mammals, it's horizontal, because that's the way that they move through the world. You look at this image of a dog, you think of most of the mammals, there's always exceptions, but most of the mammals, and yes, we're mammals, but we're another species. Most of the mammals move through the world in the horizontal plane. So they actually receive the neutrino stream horizontally. And as you can see with this dog, we have the design of forms. Ra received the design of forms, not just human form. He received the form of plants, the forms of inanimate objects, the mammals. So he got the designs, the architecture, the blueprints for all things. And we just focus on humans because that's what we do. We're humans. We're profoundly selfish, and we just want to know about ourselves. But here we have the design of a dog, and I think I mentioned this as well in our definition workshop. I very briefly touched on this, and how we can, with our dog companions, we can really calibrate to them, and they kind of calibrate to us, and we're sort of conditioning each other, and mostly it's in a positive way. But here we have a bit of a better demonstration of a mammal's design. Now, a mammal is a 5-centered bioform. Once upon a time, in a different variation of our species, we were as well. They were called Neanderthal. So if you think about our canine companions, they're the easiest for us to access, I think, to gain an understanding. You know, they're very similar to how a Neanderthal used to operate in the world, and it's not surprising that Homo sapiens are theorized as wiping out the Neanderthals because Homo sapiens had a strategic focus. The Neanderthals didn't live that life. Do you think your dog's strategic? Maybe, from a survival instinct and from learning our patterns and behaviors, but they're not manipulative in their strategy. Yeah, maybe with those big doe eyes they are. Anyway, I may be going in a direction that's not easy to describe with our canine companions, but they're completely different to us. And plants, their neutrino stream is coming up through the earth. Now, everything changes for us because of the dream rave. Now, I had no intention of bringing the dream rave into this topic, but I couldn't address the neutrino stream without addressing what's happening when we sleep. If the neutrino stream is with us 24/7, and it is the strongest conditioning force that is inescapable, then it's worth knowing what's happening when we sleep. And Ra has spent some time speaking to this because he believes we're most vulnerable when we sleep. And the dream rave actually explains why. So let's look at what happens when we sleep. If you just think about it, are we changing direction when we sleep? Yeah. We go horizontal too. So guess what happens? We have a completely different bioform when we are sleeping. Deep breath, your mind is about to be blown. Let's just land for a moment. So this diagram on the side is the same human. This is their conventional 9-centered body graph bioform as we're getting accustomed, if you're not accustomed yet, to seeing it, okay? I think my video might be cutting the head off a little bit, so I'll just move there. So we have the head center, the ajna, the throat. Where's my clicker gone? Back. The G center, just a little bit of revision. The ego or the heart center, we've got our solar plexus, our sacral, our root, and our spleen. And we've got all the channels and the gates that are connecting. All these numbers are the 64 gates, which are part of the Rave Mandala. They're derived from the hexagrams of the I Ching. And then we have all the connections, which are the channels. The channels, actually, I'll just pop it in now. They come from the Kabbalah system. So that's why human design is a synthesis of astrology, Kabbalah, the chakra system because of the energy centers, and the I Ching. Moving along. So what happens is when we go to sleep, when we're horizontal, we take on a different bioform. We become 5-centered. We literally revert back to a mammalian construct. We go into the mammalian matrix, not the upright, vertical, waking life. So we're literally completely different in some really profound ways between the waking life and the sleeping life. And this topic is, it could go really, really deep. Where I'm just introducing it. Don't get too lost in the weeds, okay? I'll keep the important bits here for this particular talk. But yeah, you could go for days on this. It's fascinating. So how is this happening? Let's get back to the mechanics of how this even happens. So when we have our upright 9-centered bioform, it is derived from the personality and the design aspects. Now, these are heavily generated from the sun, and we look at 88 degrees of the sun. It's about the movement of the sun. So your personality imprint is derived from your birth data. It's your natal chart, so to speak, is the personality, the conscious aspect of your chart. The design aspect of your chart is actually derived when you go 89 days before you're born, you get the design imprint. And this is because of the 88 degrees of the sun. And this is based on the movement of the Rave Mandala. Stay with me. What happens when we sleep is we are no longer looking at the 88 degrees of the sun, we're looking at 88 degrees of the moon. We become a lunar being. There is a lunar version of us when we sleep, and how interesting, because we are designed to sleep at night. And also, the mammalian world is ruled by the moon. If you think about the characteristics of dogs and this connection that they have with the moon, we probably know them the best. But there is this relationship between the moon and its phases and its movement and mammals and the way that they live and orientate in the world. So for a dog, they don't change. There's no way of really being able to test this, but a sleeping dog it believes it's having the same experience as when it's awake. There is no difference between the two because it's horizontal. A human is having completely different experiences between the waking state and the dream sleep state. And let's have a look. What is actually missing here? So sure, we go back to being a 5-centered bioform, but which parts do we lose? And we lose the head and the ajna. I mean, this is not even human anymore. What's the difference between a mammalian bioform and a human? A few centers, but important centers. The head and the ajna, this neocortex, this higher thinking capacity within the human being over our mammalian relatives, or very, very distant cousins, depending on evolutionary streams that you believe. So these mammals have the throat, the G center, sacral, root, spleen, also no solar plexus. Very interesting. The solar plexus is a later evolution, and that's why it's super interesting, because it's about to go through another mutation, which is taking us into a whole new era. And I'm going to stop there because I'll end up down somewhere, a track I don't need to go for this. So the take-home message of this, the practical message, which is always front and center of my relationship with how I live and share human design and hope to guide you, particularly as projectors, is it all comes down to the fact that you are completely different when you sleep. And so now, what is there? This dream rave is derived from the lunar imprint and the personality imprint. But there's aspects of your personality that are going to be missing. So for example, if you look at this waking person, they have gate 23 in the throat connecting to the ajna. But when they're asleep, because there's no ajna and there's not even gate 23 anymore in the throat, they've lost that part of their personality. So you lose parts of your personality even when you're sleeping. So the personality, you can say, is going to be the most consistent, but the personality is the most unreliable from a conditioning sense. So who you are asleep is not who you are awake. And the other thing to maybe realize is, in the waking world, because of the personality and the design quantum that come together, only 1.4% of the population are a reflector type. 1.4%, 20% are projectors. However, in the dream rave, when we all go horizontal and we get this lunar, and it's interesting because reflectors, their authority is the moon. They're ruled by the moon. They have a 28-day lunar cycle that they must honor in order to be correct. We are being designed by the lunar placements within that orientation. And so when you're asleep, you actually take on a different type. And suddenly 35% of us are reflectors when we sleep. And so it means that we have a profound amount of openness. A reflector, by definition, has all open centers. There is no definition in their centers. It's all white. So if we're acquiring that when we sleep, that all the whiteness is our openness. It's where we are inconsistent. It's where we're not defined. And so that is where these conditioning forces are going to anchor on and define things that are not actually true for us. They're not consistent for us. They're not part of our design. So Ra took from that's the sleep state, means that our physical vehicle is most vulnerable to the neutrino stream when we're asleep. And that's one of the biggest reasons why he speaks about sleep hygiene in human design is sleeping in your own aura. It's not being around anybody else, because you are already immensely vulnerable because of this dream rave. And I don't know about you, but my personal experience, particularly as I've moved through my experiment and I'm not getting up to an alarm and I'm not having to like put a persona on in order to go out to a job and do a role that I've been conditioned to do in the Maya, in the construct, I've become more and more aware that it takes me time in the morning. I will wake up in the morning and I really feel very unanchored. I can go to bed the night before and have this really clear plan and feel very focused and very embodied and very plugged in. And I'll wake up in the morning, it's like it's all gone. And I'm like, oh, that's just, I guess, what happens when we sleep. And you go really deep when you sleep and you have dreams. But it's kind of describing the dream rave. I'm waking up and I've got to remember who I am in the waking world. And so do you. So I don't know if you have this experience, but I think for projectors in particular, it's more profound because we are so sensitive. So keep this in mind. And the other question I started asking myself was, damn, is it really not bad, but is it kind of taking steps backwards for projectors if we're napping all the time? Because every time we nap, it's like we're going into that mammalian matrix. We're disconnecting from our waking state, and it takes us a bit of time to get back calibrated correctly into that waking version of ourselves. It's a lot to think about. And so I had the simplest of intentions when I was coming in to do this presentation, because I wanted to share with you, and I think it's important to share as early as possible in the projector journey, the conditioning forces, because the projector is one of the most conditioned types on the planet for a whole range of reasons that I talk about regularly and that are important within this membership that we talk about. So I was like, I want to make sure that you have this understanding of the broad scope of the conditioning forces. And one of the inescapable conditioning forces is the neutrino ocean that we're bathed in every day, this consciousness field. And then once I was moving into preparing this, I'm like, I can't not address the dream rave. So it's been a big grenade to drop into this topic, and it's probably opened up a lot for you that are like, what? When you're maybe early in your journey. So don't get too stuck here. And that's why it's beautiful that we go back to the beginning where Ra was like, look, it's all knowledge, it's all knowledge, it's all knowledge, just live your experiment. It's not like you can avoid sleeping. It's important biologically for reasons that we actually scientifically still don't fully understand. And I was fascinated with sleep because I was an anesthetist, I was an anesthesiologist. Like, I put people to sleep for a living. It's like, where do we go? What happens there? My goodness. So I don't want to go there, but this is what can happen with projectors. We just go, what's next? And what's the next layer? And tell me about this. And what does it mean for this? Don't go there. Just live your experiment. Wake up in the morning and just begin to practically start to observe yourself and look at the most important things you're doing at the start of your day need to lead you back to who you are. It's so important. You know, we kind of start to joke about the morning routine nowadays in modern society, and some morning routines are so out of hand. But let's get it really back to the simple practicality of there does need to be a morning routine, particularly for projectors if you're going to be correct in the world. So start to reflect on what that looks like for you. Start to look at what practices are conditioning you away from your design and your correctness, and what practices are opening you to calibrating to your correctness more readily and more easily. And what impact does it have if you nap? Do you have to redo that work? What is your process after having a nap to recalibrate again into your correctness? Or are we just so habituated with going into the mind, going into mental work, because it's somewhere easy we can reach for because we are so conditioned in that way? So there it is. All right, what is the take home? So what does it all mean? You cannot escape the conditioning program. This idea out there in the surface level human design space of deconditioning is a one and done, tick the box. After 7 years, I'm magically deconditioned. If you've got anyone in human design trying to convince you of that, they're manipulating you. It's not correct. You will never escape conditioning. What you do move through is a greater awareness of the conditioning forces and a greater awareness of your authenticity and the impact that those conditioning forces are having. And this is where I talk also about the transits. That neutrino stream is constantly changing. The planets are constantly shifting. The gates through which those planets move are constantly changing. So even if, and it's another topic, the planets have personalities, they have themes. We see this through astrology. You know, Mars is about communication, for example. But what happens when Mars is in gate 49, which is all about need, is completely different to what happens when Mars is in gate 4, which is very much about logic and intellect. You can get really lost in the source here. So you can't anchor to any of it. You can anchor to the definition within your bioform, and you can live life through your bioform, because the mind is going to take you on some crazy journeys that aren't what it's all about. Let the mind, the personality be the passenger. Trust in your body that has mass, that is a physical mass moving through space along a navigational plane that your magnetic monopole is designed to move you through. And the more you can calibrate to your body's correctness through strategy and authority of being on that correct trajectory, the less speed bumps, resistance you're going to encounter in life. You'll be more authentically you. You'll have the experiences, you'll have the humans, the places and spaces that you are really designed for, that are going to support you in your process for who you are here to be and what you're here to do and bring and have. So don't try and escape it. Just get some practices in place, which this space, the Phoenix Collective, is all about, really giving you a space to constantly rinse and repeat and come back to and return to this getting conditioned, deconditioning, like literally daily, moment to moment, coming back to yourself. What's my truth as a projector? What's my truth as an emotional projector? What's my truth as a split definition emotional projector? Like the fine layers just keep unfolding through this. That's why Ra talks strategy and authority so much, because it's simple, it's at the surface, and it all comes back to that. It's the mind that is the victim of the conditioning. The body just moves through the life using strategy and authority. The passenger is there to watch the show with awareness that none of it can really be anchored to. So we have passenger, we have vehicle, who's the driver? Magnetic monopole. That's another topic. Awareness doesn't prevent or stop the program operating, but it allows you to move correctly with less attachment to it, so you get to live the life you were designed for, not the one that's programming the masses. So that is it. Mind blown. Let it land. You will never look at sleep the same way again. I trust this has been of value. Please, underneath this recording, if you're coming to the recording or after this session, please share within the feed for this particular lesson what came up for you, what you're confused about. There won't be answers probably, don't worry, but feel free to share. This is all about how we are bringing this out and sharing and connecting and reflecting on everything, and bring your perspective to this, because the way I see this is my design. So that's the beauty of being in a projector space. We are all here designed to see in a different way. So I would love to hear your perspective. I'd love to hear your shares. Let me know how this landed, and just remember what Ra said right at the beginning of this presentation. Don't get too bogged in the knowledge. It's beautiful, it's fun, it's juicy, it's entertaining, but it's not what it's all about. It's just how we've come to this map, the map for how you are here to move through your life with the least resistance, the most correctness for yourself, so that life gets to be the ride and the movie that it was designed to be. So with all that said, thank you for being here. I trust this has been of value, and we'll see you next time. Ciao.